All right, Nick, let's talk about the Detroit Lions. I think it's inarguable at this point. This is the best team in all of football at this moment in time. And there's one really key reason as to why they're the best team in football. And that's because they have one of the best general managers in football, whether it's getting top free agents, whether it's hitting on pick after pick in the draft, or whether it's one thing he decided not to do this offseason. This is a really good team because of it. But first, I'm Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, the Lions general manager, Brad Holmes, he's done a lot of really good things in the past couple of years to build this Lions squad. But there's one choice he decided to not make that I think is even better than all of those choices he did make. Let's get into the article and we can talk more about it on the other side. This is from over on Click on Detroit. The Detroit Lions have one of the best general managers in football, but it's something he decided not to do that showed his greatness once again. One of his best moves this offseason might have been the way he handled an opening on the offensive line. Jonah Jackson was a big part of the O-line for the past 4 years. Since being drafted by the Lions in the third round in 2020, Jackson was a rock at the guard position, and his athleticism gave Ben Johnson great versatility in calling plays. But when Jackson's contract expired after last season, Holmes made the tough decision to let him leave in free agency. Jackson signed with Matthew Stafford's Los Angeles Rams for $51 million, and the Lions replaced him with Kevin Zeitler for $6 million. Well, Zeitler has been one of the best guards in football right now, third per PFF in all of the guards. Well, and joining Graham Glasgow to polish off an elite offensive line. Meanwhile, Jackson, on the other hand, just returned from injury and has been benched in favor of a 6th-round pick. Not very good, if you ask me. I'm curious what you think about all of this great news for the Detroit Lions, Nick. But before we get to you, Lions fans, in the comment section below, as we said, this is an elite team. There's been a lot of really strong moves, a lot of things that have been done to this team to make it good. This is a really interesting example of one of those such moves. But let us know in the comments below, what move do you think was made, or in this case, not made, that you think was the key to this Lions franchise turning around? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this latest non-move by the Lions?
It's always when you look back on teams that are successful and winning a lot of football games, there's always the under the radar decisions, right before the season or during the offseason that are made, or in this case, not made, that actually have huge ramifications. And we always get so focused on the headline grabbers. Who's the first round pick, right? What's the big free agency signing? But sometimes it's the smaller moves, like Jonah Jackson. It got some attention, but it wasn't the big headline grabber like we talked about with a bunch of other moves this offseason. Certainly, the addition of Zeitler was not a big headline grabber as well, but it's obviously turned out to be a critical component behind the Lions' success. And here's one thing I really like about this decision from Brad Holmes. For those of you who regularly watch this channel, when we talk about the Lions, my biggest complaint with Dan Campbell, the Lions, and offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as well, is that sometimes they treat themselves as the underdog, despite being clearly the most talented team in the National Football League and stacked at the majority of positions. They view themselves week in and week out, and it seems like they're going to view themselves each season as the scrappy underdog. That's not a terrible mindset to have, but when you're the favorite, you kind of need to adjust your positioning a little bit so that way you're in a strong position. I think that mentality in terms of their play calling in situations kind of hurt them last year in the NFC Championship game against San Francisco. I think it's one of the reasons why they ended up falling to the 49ers. All that being said, Brad Holmes does not have that problem. He understands the Lions are a clear favorite and are an obvious contender, and it goes back to this move specifically. Let's look at some other teams in the National Football League. You look at the Dallas Cowboys. They had a couple offensive linemen leave in the offseason. They won 12 games last year. What did they do? They went and used rookies to replace those offensive linemen at left tackle and center, arguably the two most important offensive line positions. That's one of the many reasons, there's many, why the Dallas Cowboys have struggled this season. They were a playoff team. They had veterans leave, and instead of replacing them with cheaper veterans or quality players looking for value, they went the rookie route. Anytime you go rookies, you're going to struggle. That's a sign of a team that doesn't make the right move if you're a contender. How about the Cincinnati Bengals? They've had a lot of players leave on the defensive line. Obviously, the Lions, they got their nose tackle. What did the Bengals do? They used a young first round pick, second round pick. I forget exactly what it was, but they went the rookie route to replace interior defensive line. What happens there? The Bengals defense takes a big step back, right? This is what we see around teams in the National Football League that think they're contenders. They lose veterans or let veterans walk. Sometimes it's a smart move, right? That's exactly what Brad Holmes did here, but they replaced them with rookies, right? If you're a contender, you don't let a veteran leave and replace it with rookie. You find a value-oriented veteran, and that's who you make the replacement with. And that's what contenders do. That's what smart franchises do. That's what the Chiefs do, right? They have a lot of players leave. They replace them with veterans 99 times out of 100. That's what the Patriots did during their dynasty. They have players leaving free agency. They don't rely on rookie third-round picks to say, all right, next man up. No, if you're a contender, you rely on a veteran. If you're not a contender, then you go the young player route. That makes sense. That's what the Lions did for a number of years early on in the Dan Campbell era. Now that they are contenders, you need to rely on veterans. That's what Brad Holmes did, and it's paid huge dividends. This is all part of a great strategy. Again, I've been very critical of Dan Campbell. I've gotten some heat from it from Lions fans, sometimes deservedly so. But Brad Holmes, he is just absolutely perfect with his decision-making time and time again. He's easily the best GM in football, and this move is just another example of it.
Yeah, Nick, and I think one other point here is when the Lions decided to not pay Jonah Jackson that, what was it, $51 million,
A lot of
they
money.
spread the money around the team. And I'm going to name some of the players that they paid instead of Jonah Jackson. So obviously his cap hit is not going to cover all these players, but part of that, savings went to go be able to give these players more money. So you got Jared Goff, you got Penei Sewell, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got got Decker, and you got Aleem McNeil as well. Let's go look at those guys right now. Sewell, third in overall in PFF of all tackles. Decker, pretty high up there, 70.9 PFF grade for him. So about middle of the road for him. Jared Goff, 75.0 PFF grade. Not too bad. Top 20 quarterback rating per PFF right now. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 87.9, which is fourth of all wide receivers. And on top of that, Aleem McNeil, 79.7, which is sixth of all interior defensive linemen. So you got third, fourth, and sixth, three guys in the top 10 at their position with the savings that you're able to get from not getting Jonah Jackson. So not only did he not sign Jackson, save a ton of money, bring in a guy cheaper that is doing better than him, but he went and spread that money around and got three all-pro type level players with their PFF grades this season. I think this is a really, really strong move by the GM for the Lions here. And I think we keep looking into this. And we're going to see down the road just how genius this is. It's like you said, these are the kind of moves that you can't really put all the pieces together of what exactly the ramifications are. But the deeper you dig into it, this was just a really smart move by Holmes.
And there's just one final factor to consider as well. And this is one thing I love about Holmes as a GM. We always talk about coaches putting their players in positions to be successful. How about the front office putting the coaches in position to be successful? Again, instead of relying on a rookie to replace Jonah Jackson, you go out and bring in a veteran, an experienced, well-respected guy in Zeitler, a guy who has the ability, or at least the history, I should say, to go into the Lions culture and fit right into what Detroit's trying to do. Putting your coaches in a position to be successful. They didn't go out and get a developmental rookie and say, hey, man, Dan Campbell, offensive coaching staff, figure out how to make this rookie work and try and win a title this year. Holmes, front office, they're like, okay, listen, let's go out and bring in a veteran, find a great value, a guy that we can then, paying him can allow us to spread the money around, like you mentioned, but also allowing the Lions coaching staff to not have to completely reorient their strategy, going out and getting a veteran who can slide right in, putting your coaches in a position to be successful. The more and more I dive into Holmes, and I know a lot of Lions fans they're like, you're late to the party, man, and I get it. But this guy is a special GM, a generational guy leading the Detroit franchise.